Well, hey now, how are you doing? Good to see you all, First Kingdom. And all you lurkers out there who never say hello, all you who watch the replay, all of you who enjoy this study. Boy, I appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. I made it on a Friday. Whoopee! I'm so excited. And guess what? There's only one more lesson. There's only one more after today. Might have to do another one, or I'll just end up doing the quiz in the same stream. But how very, very exciting for us all. We have gone through all the principles in our book. Yay, us. You know, we talk about these principles all the time in our assembly trainings, and particularly we always get a good excerpt from the book as well. And we talk about the movie Monumental, which if you haven't watched the movie Monumental, I want to recommend you watch the movie Monumental. Also, there's a quicker little lesson you could do if you don't want to watch the whole movie. I've seen it sectioned off into, I think it's like 17 minutes, and you can learn about the statue that is in Massachusetts. I believe it's Massachusetts. Gosh, I hope I'm right. Hope it's not Maryland. Pretty sure it's in Massachusetts. Hello, Andy girl and Echo. Hey, sexy. How you doing? Well, I'm not feeling real sexy, but thank you. Good to see you all here. The ladies in the house. I do have to upload one little thing, but I knew that even before I hit live, so it's no surprise. I have already taken the picture and emailed it to myself. Now I have to download it, then I have to upload it. It's a bit of work involved in the study, but it has been worth it. It has been worth it for my peace of mind to know that I am doing something to educate myself, because guess what? No one is going to give you the education you need to overthrow them. Nobody is going to give you the education you need. They stopped teaching civics in the 50s for dang good reason, because we don't know what we're doing. And I was talking to a friend last night, and he was telling me how, you know, there are 9 people that he knew and was working with that are in prison today for having gone up against a judge and his bond. Don't be a rogue vigilante, because although they meant well and their intentions were good, if you end up going into this activism with the Constitution and with common law, there are people that are very intelligent that can do it. They can stand on their own, and they can be very effective. But even they have advised me, stay clear of the bond issue. And that is something that I thought I would bring up, because you did have this Mickey Klon, or whatever her name is. There are a lot of new remedies popping up, and while we are looking for remedies, we need to be very careful. None of us want to end up in prison or owe big fines for things. So, you know, that's why I'm taking the time to really learn this stuff, because it's really important to me that I don't end up in prison. I don't want to end up in prison. I don't want you to end up in prison. And, you know, going after the bonds is something that was very tempting. It looked really good. It was a really nice, shiny object. You know, we all want remedy. We all want to see people brought to justice that are dirty, but we have to be very careful. And so in saying that, you have to really comprehend our Constitution, our principles, and really the proper remedy. And so the other thing I was going to mention was that I think that Sean Stryker and I are going to go live tonight after our California training call. And Jen, if you want that link, let me know. I'll definitely talk to Sean. I know you haven't been getting the link for some other trainings. I don't really get them from him either. I mean, I think he assumes we can find them ourselves. Like we just go to the old link and stuff. So a lot of this stuff is on the down low. I know that I would have liked to have streamed our trainings, but because infiltrators come in and steal that information and then use it for their self, cloak it in truth, but really they're just looking to snatch you in and keep you either distracted or get you in trouble so you end up in prison. We have to be so careful. So that's why I can't really stream those trainings, because it is private information and it was hard fought, earned information, and nobody wants to just give it away now for free. Not that it's always free. The truth is always free. We know this. Those of us that are believers in Jesus Christ and the Bible, we know that that is free. And we know that our rights are free. We know that the truth is free. So when people are asking you for money, you are not in the right place. They may have the truth, but they decided to put it behind a paywall. You can find it. It's with the national-assembly.com. There is good trainings there on the common law and effective grand juries and things of that nature. So I was talking to Sean about the Board of Supervisor meeting that I was watching this week and how they were talking about civil grand jury. And I kind of wanted to play that with him and let him see and hear what was being talked about. And dang it, is this not the right one? Darn it, did I take a picture of the wrong one? Oh man. What the heck did you do? Because, you know what? No, there it is. Okay. I didn't upload the right one, though. Let's see. I did take a picture of the right one. I just didn't get the right one. That's what happened. So we're going to do a quick review on the lesson that we learned on Wednesday, which was about the family unit. And then we're going to do the reading, which is about debt. And I sure miss my friend Louie. I know he's been getting his new homestead settled in. I hope he is well. There's a lot of my good men friend on my mind. Devil Dog, Eric, his pops is in the hospital with pneumonia. And Louie, such good guys. I really love streaming and talking with all of them. Please keep Eric and his pops in your prayers. His name is George. And, Devil Dog is one who's really been so good to me with all this information. If it weren't for him, we wouldn't be doing this study right now. It's really cool. Everything he's taught me lines up with the assembly. There are some things that, he's not always in agreement with everything, but for the most part, he believes that this is a good place for me to learn and to, because he knows I'm crazy and I will try to go and do things that might get me in trouble. So, hey, Kiss Off, good to see you. Sending prayers. Yes, we do. We pray for Eric's dad, George. He has pneumonia. That's not good at his age. I think his dad is 92 or 93 years old. And he just lost his wife. Not sure how long it's been, but I myself got to go visit 2 cousins and an uncle yesterday. It was wonderful to be with my family. I have a cousin in from North Carolina, and he was visiting my eldest uncle, the firstborn of 13. My grandma had 13 kids. I have 22 cousins, and that isn't even including the second cousins, but I was very close with all my cousins. I was the 5th oldest. I was the one put in charge a lot. which is why, you guys might have heard the story how they taunted me, Miss Bossy Boss, Miss Bossy Boss, because I had to take care of them at times, make sure they didn't run out in the street. And let me refresh this here. There we go. There we are. And so, yeah, I left all my family to come out here and follow the love of my life and become pioneer people on the West Coast, also known as the left coast. There are more than 10 righteous in this land, I tell you. California is red. Even though red and blue are of the same bird, we have more people that do believe in these principles than not. And that is the truth. That is the truth. Okay, let's get started here. Let's see, how long did I ramble on this time? Oh, 10 minutes. Not too bad. Thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate you all learning with me. I have not grown weary of this study. I still pick up new things. This is the second time through this book, although the first time we did it with the other book, The Making of America, which I love and prefer. It's a great book. And one more little thing before I get into this. If you didn't know, there is an excerpt from that book that I've put in here for the Common Law Grand Jury. This book, I suggest everybody, if you want to know your Constitution better and you want to know our foundation better and the history at that time, The Making of America is a really awesome book. And I went ahead and put this chapter about the grand jury on here, the Common Law Grand Jury. This is not the one that they often talk about in my town. It's a civil law grand jury. It's different. It's different. So that's a great excerpt for anybody that is a self-learner that actually likes to read. It seems like we're a dying breed, doesn't it? So I have to just thank you guys so much for being here and supporting me in doing this work, because it can be really defeating at times, especially after the last couple of years. At first, there was a lot of fervor and excitement for us, learning proper remedy and the Constitution. Everybody talks and talks and talks about it, but a lot of people don't take the time to actually learn it. And it's really important that we do. So let's get started with this quiz. We'll get through this real quick and then I'll read the next chapter. And then, like I said, that there's only one more after this. That's it. This study is almost completed. Yay! Number 1. In the 1830s, de Tocqueville wrote that in no country of the world is marriage more respected than in America. Number 2, describe the relationship between a European family and society according to de Tocqueville. Now, one of the things that was a good point that is made about family life and marriage and society is that a person takes peace and order into society and creates more peace and order. Now, in Europe, what Tocqueville noticed was that all domestic disturbances in society can be traced back to the home and to family life. And that makes sense when we really think about it, doesn't it? I grew up without a father, and that has caused some issues in my marriage because my husband's like, if you'd have had a father, you could listen more. I'm a bit of a rebel, and it's true. It's true. But my mama always said, God is your father. And so when I really came to that reverence, then I got myself in order a little bit better. Just put it that way, okay? Number 3, describe the relationship between an American family and society according to de Tocqueville. I got the same answer here twice. Well, what did I do? I brought the same answer down. A person takes peace and order. Well, a person takes the troubles into society and creates more trouble. I put more peace and order. That is not true. I screwed up my own answer. Sorry. Rookie streamer, rookie learner. Okay. No, a person, what he noted was with Europe, the people there wanted to forget their home life. In a lot of ways. There was a lot of promiscuity in Europe. There wasn't a solid family foundation in all cases of Europe. And so a lot of times They wanted to forget their home life and problems, and they tended to bring that problemed life into society. They're legislators. So let me just see. Let me just get the right answer here. A person takes the troubles of the family into society and creates more problems. That is what Tocqueville described the relationship between European family and society. But he definitely noted that with American life, because there was so much peace and order in the home life and in the family, that was brought into society. And we can see that for ourselves, can't we? 4, what was the founders' beliefs concerning the status of men and women and their roles? Men and women are equal. Our God-given right is we are equal, but we do have different roles. And, you know, he read some of the excerpts from some of the diaries and biographies of the founders and found that, you know, prior to American colonization with the founders, women were thought of as inferior, but the founders proved otherwise. And, you know, they put a lot more trust in their women with allowancing that, you know, giving them allowances and monies and helping them to make decisions. But ultimately, the men were the only ones that voted for a long time. But it is said that the men really sought their own women's opinions and insights before they cast their vote. And their vote was based on their family. It wasn't just their own solo rogue thing. They were thinking of their families, because men that had a family that really nurtured that family, respected their women, that's what they wanted to do. Number 5, Locke said the oft-used phrase paternal authority should really be parental authority. And, you know, of course, we brought in the Bible there, honor thy father and mother. Beyond just reason or revelation, beyond just thinking about it, we had a point of reference, a moral compass that, you know, we don't curse our mother or father. We honor them. That is a true Christian principle. And I will add, it comes with a promise that it will be well with you and you will live long in the Lord, in the land the Lord your God gave you. I've definitely experienced that in my own personal life. I've confessed this many times to you guys. When we built my mama her tiny house, it wasn't because I was in such a great state. I knew that I needed to honor my mother. The feelings followed, and because I really didn't want to live with her in my same house. I wanted her to have her own home. You know, she's a smoker. She likes to watch TV 24/7. I don't want to be around that. But I wanted my mom here on our homestead. And so we built her a little tiny house, and my family and my cousin Timmy mostly really poured so much into that. As an engineer, he designed it on his CAD program. And you know what? It really changed my mom. As you can imagine, having your family build a home for you, what that did for her, because my mom's been alone for 20 years now. She's 72 years old. It really changed her relationship with God too. She realized how much God truly loves her through that. And it changed me too. It changed me too. So it was a great thing to do. And that wasn't in my own reasoning or revelation. That was a biblical principle that I realized, like, I need to fall in line with this. I need order in my life. I need to take care of my mom. And so we did that. Thank God for my husband. He helps and continues to help. He takes care of my mom. Takes care of a lot. My husband takes care of our entire homestead and a business. And he's a great guy. I'm very blessed with him. Let's see. Franklin told a young friend the only relationship with a woman where one can find solid happiness is in marriage. His friend was about to take on a mistress, and he was going to just shack up with her, basically. Franklin said a single man is like an odd pair of scissors. Like an odd half pair of scissors, excuse me. 8, according to John Locke, when does one reach maturity? When he can live his freedom by the law he was required to live under. Quite simply put, in terms, school and work. You know, an immature child, I learned a new word, nonage, ignorant nonage is what, when they're not mature, they were referred to, we don't really say this nowadays, but they're ignorant nonage, and it just means non-age. You know, you could have a young person who may be ready for the workplace, may be ready to follow the rules of the workplace. And you can certainly see some that are not. Heck, we've got a lot of them that are over 21 years old, and they can't seem to operate in society without having temper tantrums. We saw that yesterday, didn't we? Destroying property, having fits of rage, outbursts of wrath, no self-control whatsoever, no moral compass, just, you know, sad. 9, what responsibility do children have to aging parents? To care for and nurture them. We have a perpetual obligation to those who gave us life to make sure their life is cared for. That's what my friend Eric is going through right now. And a lot of us our age, I mean, I'm 53, so, you know, there's a lot of my own peers. We're experiencing that. We're caring for our family. We're caring for our parents. And if you are not, you know, you are in my prayers that your family will step up. They will not have any peace in their life until they do. They can run around and do all kind of things they want to do. But until they really put their life in order, it's not going to happen. 10, according to Locke, what role does government have in the operation of family life? None. To protect and preserve it, I would say, not to meddle in it, interfere in it, and say, you can lie to your parents about a sex change. You can lie to your parents about an abortion. We'll help you do that. You take that down to its core. That is depopulation agenda. Hello, wake up. Wake up. It's sad. People following these agendas, these evil agendas, you're just being used as puppets. You will be disregarded just like trash. They don't care about you. They don't care about your family. This is not about reproductive rights. It's called murder. It's murder. Putting all kind of quotes and terms on it. What are you talking about? Destroying an innocent baby's life? Think about it. So sad that we are in this state. In the last 4 years, I've never seen our country go downhill faster. Although it's been going on a long time, obviously. Okay, the 26th principle, the core unit which determines the strength of any society is the family. Therefore, the government should foster and protect its integrity. Now we're going to go on to the next chapter. And I want to say one more thing too, before, as we get into this one, I want to share something with you. There is a page here called Louie's Page, and I have streamed several times. Where is it? Why isn't I seeing it? Oh, there it is. I've streamed many times with Louie about honest money. He taught me a lot, as Devil Dog did too, about the gold and silver and how it can be used even today. People buy automobiles. Automobile? Sorry, I can't help it. Who knows what movie that's from? Automobile. And property with real gold and silver. You know, and it's a shame that a lot of people in society think they have to wait until there's a big change made to actually operate in that, and we don't. And a lot of people will give a hefty discount. I'm talking to my one friend She said that she asked one of her ranchers, they'll give a 15% discount for cash, a 30% discount for gold or silver. There is a difference, and people, you just got to start asking questions. So I've done a lot of streams with Louis about the money, and he's put together some things here about the money. And so if you just click on these pictures, it'll take you to BitChute is where I uploaded them. They're also on Rumble. I will figure out how to upload the Rumble with the, it's called embedding. Well, no, it's already on Rumble, but I got to embed the Rumble's links here. But it doesn't matter. You can get to him here. He put this visual together for me. I really miss Lou. I hope he's doing well. And there's a lot of information here about honest money. If you want more after this stream, we're going to talk a lot about debt and money and what the founders had intended for us. And we're far from it. We are in a debt system. You're going to see a graph of the debt that we've gone through since our nation's constitution. And so here we go. On one side, we have Franklin saying, think what you do when you run into debt. You give another power over your liberty. The burden of debt is as destructive to freedom as subjugation by conquest. Slavery or involuntary servitude is the result of either subjugation by conquest or succumbing to the bondage of debt. Debt, of course, is simply borrowing against the future. It exchanges a present advantage for a future obligation. It will require not only the return of the original advance of funds, but a subsequent compensation to the creditor for the use of his money. Usury. How debt can benumb the human spirit. The founders knew that borrowing can be an honorable procedure in a time of crisis, but they deplored it just the same. They looked upon it as a temporary handicap, which should be alleviated at the earliest possible moment. They had undergone sufficient experience with debt to see its corrosive and debilitating effect, which tends to corrupt both individuals and nations. In the case of the individual, excessive debt greatly curtails the freedom of the debtor. It benumbs his spirit. He often feels hesitant to seek a new location or change a profession. He passes up financial opportunities which a free man might risk. Heavy debt introduces an element of taint into a man's search for happiness. There seems to be a perpetual burden every waking hour. There is a sense of being perpetually threatened as he rides the razor's edge of potential disaster. There's also a sense of waste, much like the man who has to make payments on a dead horse. It is money spent for pleasures or even needs that are long since past. It often means sleepless nights, recoiling under the burden of a grinding weight, which is constantly increasing with every tick of the clock and often at a usurious rates. The founders' attitude toward debt. The founding fathers belonged to an age when debt was recognized for the ugly specter that it really is. They considered frugality a virtue, and even when an emergency compelled them to borrow, they believed in borrowing frugally and paying back promptly. Nearly everyone finds it to his advantage or absolute necessity to borrow on occasion. Debt becomes the only available means, a necessary evil. Nevertheless, the founders wanted the nature of debt to be recognized for what it is, evil, because it is a form of bondage. Thomas Jefferson wrote, the maxim of buying nothing without the money in our pockets to pay for it would make our country one of the happiest on earth. Experience during the war provided this, and I think every man will remember that. Under all the privations it obliged him to submit to during that period, he slept sounder and awoke happier than he can do now. Debts from splurge spending. The founders felt that the worst kind of debt is that which results from splurge borrowing, going into debt to enjoy the temporary luxury of extravagantly living beyond one's means. They knew the seductive snare which this possibility presents to the person who is watching other people do it. The English author William Makepeace Thackeray reflected those feelings when he wrote these words in Vanity Fair. How well those live who are comfortable and thoroughly in debt. How they deny themselves nothing. How jolly and easy they are in their minds. But of course, all the reveling and apparitions of the debt-financed prosperity disappear like a morning mist when it comes time to pay. Extravagant living, waste, and hazardous borrowing against the future can reduce the best of us to bankruptcy, abject poverty, and even gnawing hunger from lack of the most basic necessities of life. Universal human experiences verifies the bitter reality of the parable of the prodigal son who would fain have filled his belly with the husks that the swine did eat. Luke 15:16. The kind of frugality for which the founders were famous was rooted in the conviction that debt should be abhorred like the plague. They perceived excessive indebtedness as a form of cultural disease. Benjamin Franklin on splurge spending. One of the founders who made his fortune through frugality and financial discipline was Benjamin Franklin. He had this to say concerning splurge spending. But what madness must it be to run into debt for these superfluities? We are offered by the terms of this vendue 6 months credit, and that perhaps has induced some of us to attend to it, because we cannot spare the ready money and hope now to be fine without it. But think what you do when you run into debt. You give to another power over your liberty. If you cannot pay at the time, you will be ashamed to see your creditor. You will be in fear when you speak to him. You will make poor, pitiful, sneaking excuses, and by degrees come to lose your veracity and sink into base, downright lying. For, as Poor Richard says, the second vice is lying. The first is running in debt. And again, to the same purpose, lying rides upon debt's back. Whereas a freeborn Englishman ought not to be ashamed or afraid or to see or speak to any man living. But poverty often deprives a man of all his spirit and virtue. 'Tis hard for an empty bag to stand upright, as Poor Richard truly says. The founders' policy concerning a national debt. The pioneers of the American Commonwealth had the wisdom born of experience to know that the debts of a nation are no different from the debts of an individual. The fact that the indebtedness is shared by the whole people makes it no less ominous. The founders knew that dire circumstances such as war or other emergency could force a nation to borrow, so they authorized the federal government to do it in Article 1 of the Constitution. Nevertheless, they considered a matter of supreme importance for the survival of a free people to get out of debt and enjoy complete solvency in order to prosper. This is reflected in the Declaration of Thomas Jefferson when he said, I, however, place economy among the first and most important of republican virtues, and public debt is the greatest of the dangers to be feared. Should one generation impose its debt on the next? It has always been popular in some countries to justify the practice of passing on the debts incurred by one generation to the next for payment. This was justified particularly in the case of war debts, by the rationalization that since war is fought to maintain the independence and integrity of the nation, future generations should bear the burden of the cost. But this was not the view of the American founding fathers. They felt that the war's economic problems and debts of one generation should be paid for by the generation which incurred them. They wanted the rising generation to be genuinely free, both politically and economically. It was their feeling that passing on their debts to the next generation would be forcing the children of the future to be born into a certain amount of bondage or involuntary servitude, something for which they had neither voted nor subscribed. It would be, in a very literal sense, taxation without representation. Clearly, they said, it was a blatant violation of a fundamental Republican principle. Jefferson considered an inherited debt immoral. Thomas Jefferson was particularly emphatic on this point. Said he, that we are bound to defray the war's expenses within our own time and unauthorized to burden posterity with them, I suppose to have been proved in my former letter. We shall all consider ourselves morally bound to pay them ourselves, and consequently, within the life expectancy of the majority, we must raise then ourselves the money for this war, either by taxes within the year or by loans. And if by loans, we must repay them ourselves, proscribing forever the English practice of perpetual funding. The founders established a policy of paying debts promptly. From the founding of our nation under the new Constitution, it became a policy of supreme importance to pay off the national debt. In his first term, President Washington wrote, "I entertain a strong hope that the state of the national finances is now sufficiently matured to enable you to enter upon a systematic and effectual arrangement for the regular redemption and discharge of the public debt, according to the right which has been reserved to the government. No measure can be more desirable, whether viewed with an eye to its intrinsic importance or to the general sentiment and wish of the nation." The following year, the president made it clear that this was no casual suggestion to Congress, but a matter of highest priority. No pecuniary consideration is more urgent than the regular redemption and discharge of the public debt. On none can delay be more injurious or an economy of time more valuable. Just before leaving office, Washington made a final plea to Congress to exert a greater effort to pay off the national debt, if only for the sake of the next generation. He said, "Posterity may have a great cause to regret it if, from any motive, intervals of tranquility are left unimproved for accelerating this valuable end." The history of the national debt. When we trace the history of the national debt, we find that the policy laid down by the founders has been followed by every generation until the present one. One of the charts accompanying this chapter reflects the annual national debt from the days of George Washington to the present. By carefully tracing the pattern of these debts, we notice that after every war or financial emergency involving heavy indebtedness, there was an immediate effort to pay it off as rapidly as possible. This policy was followed for the sake of the rising generation. The adult citizens of America wanted their children born in freedom, not bondage. In our own day, however, a different attitude toward national fiscal policies has evolved. This is not only reflected in the skyrocketing thrust of an astonishing level of national indebtedness, but it has been accompanied by an equally profligate explosion in the cost of government operations, as reflected in the chart showing outlays of the federal government. The risk in violating fundamental principles. America's contribution to mankind's 5,000-year leap was achieved by rather strict adherence to certain fundamental principles, which were part of the founders' phenomenal success formula. As we have already seen, some of these most important fundamentals are being neglected, if not repudiated in our own day. The most important area of neglect is the advice of the founders concerning national fiscal policies. As we examine the two charts included with this chapter, we find a number of notable things. So it goes back to 1865, and it looks like, let's see, ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000, 100,000, million. So billion? 2 billion? 1865. Let's see, where's the chart? There's the graph that shows the real explosion here. 1990, 1980, let's see, 1970. The 50s, 60s, and 70s looked like we were creeping real small with the debt. And now we know we're in trillions here. I can't even, ones, tens, hundreds, thousand, 10,000, 100,000, million. And then we must have 100 million. 100,000 million, I don't know, a billion, trillion. I don't even know how to read those numbers. Really, seriously. But look at 2012. Exploded. So you can study that chart later. We're going to read on. I've got a couple more pages here. Just 4 more quick ones. First of all, as we have already observed, each generation of the past tried to pay off the national debt. In our own day, the importance of this policy has been de-emphasized. This development has occurred simultaneously with the policy of de-emphasizing the restraints and literal construction of the Constitution. Beginning with the era of the Great Depression, all 3 branches of the federal government used the climate of emergency to overstep their constitutional authority and aggressively undertake to perform tasks not authorized by the founders. Extensive studies by Nobel Prize-winning economist Milton Friedman have demonstrated that every one of these adventures is non-constitutional activities proved counterproductive, some of them tragically so. Secondly, the people were introduced to believe that these serious aberrations of the constitutional principles would provide a shortcut to economic prosperity, thereby lifting the people out of the Depression. Unfortunately, it was successful only politically. It gave the people the illusion that by spending vast quantities of borrowed money, they would prosper, when as a matter of fact, the outcome was exactly the opposite, just as the founders had predicted. Dr. Milton Friedman points out that after the federal government had spent billions of dollars and had seriously meddled with the constitutional structure of the nation, the unemployment rate was higher in 1938 than it had been in 1932. Had not the crisis of World War II suddenly emerged, which required the spending of many additional billions of borrowed dollars and also resulted in absorbing the unemployed workforce, the fiscal failure of the New Deal experiments would be better remembered by the American people. Splurge spending is habit forming. It is highly significant that the political formula which Harry Hopkins recommended to keep a particular administration in power was tax, tax, spend, spend, elect, elect. Once the people have been encouraged by their political leaders to indulge in splurge spending, the result is like a snowball rolling downhill. It increases in size and gains in speed. This is dramatically demonstrated in the charts. It will be noted that the national budget was less than $100 billion in 1960. Today, we spend almost that just for interest on the national debt, and that is more than the entire cost of World War I in real dollars. Since 1970, the national debt has tripled. I would say it's probably quadrupled by now. We're in the trillions, aren't we? Today, we are spending the next generation's inheritance. The figures in these charts are astonishing, but not nearly as significant as the trend of thinking among the American people, which the figures represent. For the first time in the entire history of the United States, a generation of Americans is squandering the next generation's inheritance. With the national debt at $1 trillion, there is no way in the foreseeable future whereby this generation could possibly liquidate such a mountain of accumulated debt. The problem is aggravated by the fact that this generation has also committed itself to pay off additional liabilities in the future, amounting to approximately $11 trillion. Since 1972, an effort has been made to compute precisely how extensive these commitments really are, but it is feared that they may turn out to be even more than the 11 trillion which present tabulations indicate. The problem of the fix. Of course, the founders would understand exactly what this generation is doing to itself. It is the very essence of human nature to pursue this disastrous course once the appetite has been created to demand it. As a result, American taxpayers now discover themselves playing a role almost identical to that of an addict on hard drugs. The addict denounces his habit and despises the pusher who got him into it. But when he is confronted with the crisis of needing a fix, he will plead with tears of anguish for the narcotic remedy. The fix, of course, is not a remedy at all. The real remedy is withdrawal. The addict must escape from the torturous cycle of vicious repetition, which is not solving his problem but compounding it. If withdrawal is painful, at least it is not prolonged. The problem is primarily a matter of will power, the determination to change. Every aspect of this reprehensible example applies to the mood of the American masses during recent years. Polemics against the government's profligate spending are vehement. The denunciation of high taxes is virtually universal. From banker to ditch digger, it is eloquently explained how this entire syndrome of big spending, high taxes, oppressive government regulations, and mountainous debt is stifling the economy, inhibiting the rate of production, and stagnating the wholesome development of the traditional American lifestyle. Yet, with all of that, any congressman will verify that it has been, at least until recently, almost political suicide to try and change the trend. When it comes to cutting programs and reducing costs, balancing the budget, and eliminating deficit spending, it is amazing how few will make the necessary adjustment without the most violent outcries of protest when it affects them personally. But then this would come as no surprise to the founders. It is called human nature. They would know that the only solution to develop the willpower to make the change. This is not easy, but it can be done. How can the United States return to the founders' formula? In recent years, the number of Americans who have become reconciled to the inescapable necessity of returning to the founder's formula has risen to millions. The very circumstance in which the American taxpayer finds himself are sufficient to awaken many to recognize the fiscal bottomless pit which the nation is sinking. The vivid shock of that realization is precisely what is needed to arouse the majority of the people to the point where they are willing to go through fiscal withdrawal and kick the habit of splurge spending. However, congressmen, the president, and the taxpayers are all asking the same question. Is there any way this can be accomplished without our going through the wringer of a deep depression? This writer believes that there is. By returning to the fundamental principles espoused by the founding fathers, we can reverse the trend and get America back to the formula of prosperity economics without a major crunch or depression. I know the proverb in the Bible, it says the borrower is slave to the lender. And I've definitely experienced that myself with my husband. Being into debt, there was a time when we were $500,000 in debt, getting our property and being in business and just borrowing from Peter to pay to Paul and, all that stuff. And I know some people's, I think I've heard Jerry Lee in the chat a time or two say he hasn't paid taxes in 9 years. And there are ways people can do that. And unfortunately, where we're at right now, when people start searching for remedy, a lot of times they get lost in the whole birth certificate things and getting debts nullified. And those things are interesting, but they're not really going to help us. Before I start trying to not pay taxes, I definitely need to know more about not going to prison, And I have learned from Louis. He came out and he brought me receipts, and he actually brought me 4 examples, 4 different people that he's helped opt out of the IRS tax club because we voluntarily opt into it. And there really was very little necessary. And the longest one I recall had been 9 years where somebody was just not being harassed by the IRS anymore. Another one got a letter all of a sudden after a few years, and they did the same correspondence, and they're off their back. It can be done. And there are these remedies. They're all up in common law for sure. It's just that people, we have to stay focused on how we're going to do what we're going to do. So, hey, Devil Dog, don't know your rights, you don't know what to protect. That's right. That is right. Chickens for KFC. That was funny. Who said that? It was Netanyahu said that, didn't he? Wonder how they felt about negotiating with women chiefs. I don't know. I think, did you get a book about that? About the early foundation and the natives and the history? It's also as relief on their side. Yeah. Yep. I think that I might come back on and do a stream with Sean. It wouldn't be the gardening one. I know I've talked about the gardening stream for so long. As I've talked about the Bible study stream, just to really be raw and straight shoot it to you, I have really lost the desire to stream on YouTube. I love this class. I love teaching this class, learning. I'm committed to. We got one more after this. And I want to really take some time and study these new books that I got. But, my desire for YouTube is definitely not where it was 4 years ago when I started this journey. And I thought there was so many people looking for remedy. And it's not about how many people are in here. I love just having quality people that are actually interested in learning as opposed to mass numbers. I'm never going to ask for money. I'm not interested in fame. It's just that, people are so fickle and they're looking for so many. There's 1,000 different ways people can go and directions they can go. And I thought this was the best direction for me, and I believe it is the best direction for our country. But and YouTube, it's like whatever. YouTube, Rumble. I have more people that follow me on Rumble because that is where more people are that are looking for remedy, that are looking for people that are talking about our Constitution that are effective. And plus, they know I'm going to delete a lot of my streams off of YouTube anyway. So, early American Indian history, Church Indian War. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, I don't know. And the thing is, too, you guys, I don't know how much longer I can do this because of censoring, because no one's guaranteed tomorrow, and because I just have lost the desire to do it. And it's not because, I don't have 1,000 followers or whatever. That's not it. It's just sometimes I can just feel like it's a waste of my time, and maybe I should just keep my time for myself and just read and learn more. But I love you guys that are here, and I think about you often. And, it's just, I just feel like my time is waning here, and I know you appreciate it, and I'm really glad you do. And I want to just say a prayer for you all. God, thank you for all these people in this chat, and for people that are going to watch this later. Thank you for people that are interested in these remedies that actually made it this far into the lesson with me. I pray for their home life, for their financial needs, for their health needs. I pray you protect them, that no weapon formed against them would prosper. I lift up Eric to you and his dad. All of us here in our relationship with our children and our parents, God, help us. Help us to be your hands and feet, Jesus. Help us to return to you. In Jesus' name, amen. Our Constitution was written for a religious and moral people. You can see this. If people are adhering to a moral compass, if people are protecting the family unit and not looking to government, God, our society would look a lot different, wouldn't it? Particularly in the terms of sellouts. Everybody has a number unless you don't. You couldn't pay me $2 billion to turn on my fellow man, to be evil. There's no amount of money you could pay me to do evil. But look around. That's why the gospel is the Great Commission. It is the most important thing. My calling is to learn our foundation, which entwines both. It entwines both. And it's a beautiful thing. And I love it and I enjoy it. And I appreciate you guys. And I pray that the Lord bless you and keep you. Lord, make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you and give you peace. And I will see you tonight, hopefully, with Sean. We're going to go over a little bit of our local meeting. There was some talk about the grand jury. I'm pretty sure they're just working on the imitation counterfeit one because they're getting nervous about the real grand jury that has assembled in California. You're most welcome. I love you guys. You can pay me enough to give up my authority as people. I love you guys so much. I do appreciate you all being here. And I will see you on the next one. Peace in.